Hi, my name is A.K. Hata and I'm a bartender here in New York. I'm here with you all to make my spiced pecan margarita. I grew up mostly in Atlanta and my favorite dessert to eat back home is pecan pie, so I wanted to impart some of those nutty notes into my margarita. One of my favorite margarita variations is a modern classic called the Infante. A classic Infante is just tequila, lime, and orgeat. So I wanted to customize mine a bit to tie it back in with my hometown. So I've made a spiced pecan orgeat. I've chosen Patrón Reposado because Patrón Reposado has been rested in oak barrels for 3 to 5 months, and that's going to impart a lot of vanilla, baking spice notes, a little bit of citrus and honey, and that's going to play out really nicely in this margarita. So to start off, the first thing we'll need to do is make our spiced pecan orgeat. I'll show you step by step how to make it. Orgeat is essentially a nut syrup or a nut cordial. Traditional orgeat is made with almonds, but here we're going to use some black tea and pecans to make our spiced pecan orgeat. So first step, we're going to get our nuts ready. These pecans have already been toasted. You can do it in a pan or in the oven at low temp for like 5 to 10 minutes until they get aromatic. And then we want to pulverize them. They should be like a nice sandy texture. So once our nuts are ready, then we're going to start with our syrup. So here I have equal parts sugar. I'm going to add that to my pan, and tea. This can be any kind of black tea, and this has already been steeped. Next, we're going to whisk this together over like medium-high heat, really just until the sugar dissolves. So once it's dissolved, we're going to let that boil for about 3 to 5 minutes. We're good to go ahead and add our nuts. So we're going to pour all of our toasted pecans in here. And we're just gonna give this a quick stir just to incorporate. And then we're gonna let this sit on heat. It will probably boil for another 3 minutes. Just watch it so it doesn't boil over. Once that's set, then we're gonna take it off heat and let it rest covered for about 3 hours. All right, so once our orgeat has been resting, we're gonna pour it into our bowl that's already prepared with the cheesecloth. Just make sure it's folded over 3 or 4 times. That way you get a nice mesh. So we're gonna pour this in here. This is the most labor-intensive part of this process. We're just gonna pick up the cheesecloth, make sure to get all the corners really tightly. I'm gonna lift it up and squeeze the syrup out. So this syrup smells so good. I feel like all those nutty notes, and I get the tea coming through, and I feel like this is really gonna tie in with Patrón Reposado because it's been rested in oak barrels. This is gonna get a lot of those nice oils, a lot of the tea, the spice notes. Just gonna squeeze to make sure we get all of that pecan goodness. So once we've strained our syrup, we're just gonna add an ounce of vodka. Adding a little bit of vodka is just gonna make this shelf stable. Still store it in your refrigerator, but this is gonna be good to keep for a while. All of those baking spice notes are gonna come through and really complete this pecan pie inspired margarita. All right, now we're ready to make our cocktail. So first off, we're gonna add 2 dashes of orange bitters. This is mostly for balance, but it's gonna add a little extra flavor. Then we have our spiced pecan orgeat. These nutty notes are just a little something extra to really elevate your classic margarita. Then we're gonna add 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice. Pro tip, always juice it same day. Gets a little bitter if you leave it sitting too long. Next, we're gonna add 1.5 ounces of Patrón Reposado. I feel like Patrón Reposado just has such a nice aroma with lots of fresh citrus and honey, and it's really gonna bring this margarita together. All right, now we're ready to add ice and shake. One more. All right, we're gonna put the big tin on top, give it a good seal. So give it a good hard shake for about 15 seconds. We're gonna strain it into our glass. If you have a nice big cube, that's perfect. If not, just fill your glass with lots of ice. Then we're gonna garnish this with a dehydrated orange wheel for a little color and some fresh cinnamon. That's gonna echo a lot of the baking spice notes from the Patrón Reposado. So this is your spiced pecan margarita. Cheers. This turned out so well, I'm really proud of it. I feel like it still tastes like a classic margarita, but that orgeat just gives it some nutty baking spice notes that is really reminiscent of pecan pie. And it marries so well with the Patrón Reposado. Patrón doesn't add any additional flavors, so all of the flavor that you get is from the time that it's spent rested in those oak barrels. Really brings out all that nuttiness. Anyways, I love this cocktail. If you'd like to make it at home, you can find the recipe at Food52.